So we like vertex form of a quadratic because it allows us to easily factor. Not factor, graph. It allows us for easy graphing. We should be able to immediately look at this vertex form and know where this quadratic is on the graph. Versus the standard form of the quadratic. Does anyone know what it's easy to do when it's in this form? Yes, factor so that we can eventually do what? Why do we factor? What's the point of factoring? It's not simplify. It is another S word, though. Solve. We factor so that we can solve. Find solutions. So why do we need the standard form? So that we can factor and solve. But before we can factor and solve, which is actually what we're going to do next class, we need to know how to convert between these forms. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to go from vertex, which remember is the graphing one. We're going to go from vertex to standard, which is that ax squared plus bx plus c form. And I'm going to list the steps out for you. In the example that you see here, 2 times x minus 4 squared plus 5. What do you think we do first? So, because there's a square on the parentheses, we cannot distribute the 2 first. What does squaring mean? What does it mean if I say something is squared? You're multiplying something by itself. Good. So here, before you can distribute the 2, we actually have to deal with the square first. Remember, when we're simplifying, we're following PEMDAS. Distribute is multiplication. What comes first, multiplication or exponents in PEMDAS? Exponents. We have to deal with the exponent first. So step number 1 is to square the binomial. Meaning, multiply the parentheses the c's by itself. Did I spell parentheses right? Paran? What the heck was I doing? Parentheses. Okay, there we go. So that means the 2 remains in front, but the x minus 4 squared, I'm going to break apart into x minus 4 times x minus 4. And the plus 5 is still on the end. How do I go about multiplying binomials? A binomial is just something that has 2 terms. How do I multiply these together? FOIL, yes, double distribute. So we take that first term, the x, and multiply it by everything in the second set of parentheses. X times x gives us x squared. And x times negative 4 gives us negative 4x. And then we have to multiply everything, that negative 4 times everything in the second set of parentheses. Negative 4 times x gives us negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 4, 16. What do we then do? Combine the like terms. So we end up with what inside of our parentheses now? X squared when we're combining like terms, we're not having to change the sign at all. There's no equal sign that we're trying to go to the other side of. We can just combine. So what is negative 4x minus 4x? Negative 8x plus 16. What do you think is our next step? What do you think we would do next? Now we can distribute that too. Distribute the a value. That's the number in front. If there is one. Sometimes we won't have a 2. Sometimes we won't have a stretch or compression. So let's go ahead, let's distribute that 2 in. And what do we get? What is our first term now, Oscar? When we distribute the 2 into the x squared, what does it become? Yes, 2x squared. And when we distribute the 2 to the second term, what does it become, Ava? Negative 16x. And when we distribute 2 into the last term, Kennedy, what do we get? Plus 32. What can't we forget to bring down? 8 and f. We need to bring that plus 5 down. It didn't disappear, it's just on the end. And what do you think the last and final step is here? Anybody? What do we think the last step would be? Combine like terms. So, what should we end up with as our very last term, Isabella, when we combine 32 and 5? What should we get when we combine that 32 and that 5 together? 32 plus 5. Say it again. Yes, 37. And we're done. This is standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. We have an a term, which is 2, a b term, which is negative 16, and a c term, which is 37. And we're done. Any questions on how we converted from vertex to standard form? All right. So on number 4, we have negative 3 times x minus 1 squared minus 4. What is step number 1 here? What should I have done first? Right. We need to square the x minus 1, meaning we're multiplying x minus 1 times x minus 1. Now I need to double distribute, or FOIL. I'm going to take that very first term, the x, and multiply it by everything in the second set of parentheses. So, x times x gives me x squared. X times negative 1 gives me negative 1x. Then I need to also do the exact same thing for the second term, the negative 1. Multiply it by everything in the second set of parentheses. So negative 1 times x gives me negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 1 gives me a positive 1. Then I need to combine the like terms that I got from double distributing. So the only like terms I have are the negative 1x and the negative 1x. And negative 1x minus 1x becomes negative 2x. What is my next step here? Distribute the negative 3. So I get negative 3x squared. Now what is negative 3 times negative 2x? What happens when you multiply a negative times a negative? It becomes a positive 6x. And negative 3 times 1 gives me negative 3. What is my last and final step? Combine the like terms, the negative 3 and the negative 4. What is negative 3 minus 4? Negative 7. And that's my standard form. I went from Vertex to standard form. Are there any questions for this problem? Okay, so your homework on this portion, we still have one more thing to learn, how to go from standard to Vertex. But on this portion, going from Vertex to standard, your homework is 2 and 3.